So as we've been telling you this morning, as Donald Trump sits atop the new Fox polls in New Hampshire, Governor Christie and others are slugging it out, trying to get some traction with voters who historically think it over until the final days. This week, Governor Christie was captured talking about a very emotional moment in his life, which has gotten now more than 5 million hits on YouTube. It was about a close law school friend of the governor's, a star lawyer, a family man who was prescribed painkillers and a year later had lost it all and was found dead in a hotel room. Watch this.
He had everything. He's a drug addict, and he couldn't get help, and he's dead. And when I sat there as the governor of New Jersey at his funeral and looked across the pew at his 3 daughters sobbing because their dad is gone, there but for the grace of God go I. It can happen to anyone. And so we need to start treating people in this country, not jailing them.
Governor Christie joins me. I have lots to talk about this morning, but this is getting, as we said, quite a bit of attention. Why do you think it's getting so much traction?
I think that the drug problem in this country is enormous, and it's touching every family. And the reason why I talk about my friend is because he's not what people stereotypically think of a drug addict. You know, Ivy League trained lawyer, you know, family man, husband, father of 3 daughters, successful partner in a law firm, great shape, running 12 miles a week, and hurts his back and gets addicted to prescription drugs. And over a 10-year odyssey, Martha, we intervened a number of times trying to help him. And at 52 years old, he wound up dead.
There was a piece on 60 Minutes this weekend about, you know, suburbanites and kids and teenagers getting hooked on heroin. It's a very, it's an important story. And when you look at the Ohio vote this week, they voted down legalizing marijuana.
I think people are understanding that this is a gateway drug. We don't want to send mixed signals to our kids and to our young people, and it affects everybody in our society. And we need to, you know, look at it differently now. This is a disease, and people need to be treated for this disease. Because if they are, we can put families back together potentially. And they're not going to get treatment if they're in prison. Now, if they're violent, they need to go to jail. Violent folks need to go to jail, but folks who are nonviolent and getting themselves in trouble with the law, not dealing drugs, we need to get them treatment. And that's what we're doing in New Jersey. We now do that for everybody who's a first-time, nonviolent, non-dealing offender.
All right. So debate coming up next week. You've had good reviews coming out of these debates, a lot of discussion about a strong performance. It's not, as we said, translating into these numbers, at least not in the national numbers that we're seeing so far. So what are you going to do to turn this around? 2
things. First off, in New Hampshire, we've seen a big boost. And as Carl was saying in the report beforehand, that's where people, you know, are going to make these decisions very early on. They matter a lot. But secondly, the interesting thing about your poll was people said it was the first and most important issue was government spending and debt. And I'm the only candidate in this race with a plan to reform entitlements, which are 71% along with debt service of spending. And so I think we get further in this race, and as Carl was saying in his report, when people really start to focus, which they do late in these things, they're going to hear that I'm the only guy who has stood up and said we got to take on the tough issue of entitlement spending, because if we don't, we're going to bankrupt our country. And that's what I like about the poll, is that people are on the same wavelength with me about what is the most important issue. It was the first speech I gave in this campaign, Martha. We got to deal with entitlement reform. It is bankrupting our country.
A lot of talk about the main stage. The debates have gotten a lot of focus because they seem to be moving the numbers here. How much does that matter to you? What ends up happening? We won't know until tonight, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we won't know until tonight. But listen, the bottom line is that you need to be on a stage and debating. And so I will be on a stage debating one way or the other, wherever they put me. You will put one in the middle of the square in Manchester. I'll do it there. People need to hear our voice and our ideas. I'm looking forward to being in a debate in Milwaukee on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to being able to get into it again on the issues that are really important, and to remind everybody that our real adversary here, our real problem, lives in Chappaqua, New York. It's Hillary Clinton, not the men and women on that stage, but Hillary Clinton and her vision for America, which I think is the wrong direction for our country. Who do you want on that stage next September prosecuting the case against her? I think I'm the person best prepared and most tested to be there, and I'm going to fight to get there.
We just watched Trump going after everybody, and we're going to probably see some more of that on Saturday Night Live. How destructive do you think that is?
I think it's a real problem, you know, and I think that's why I haven't engaged in it, Martha, because I don't think it's the right thing to do. We have some differences between us. We can talk about those, but we don't need to make it personal, and we don't need to make it the way it's being done there. And I quite frankly think we need to be focusing on Hillary Clinton. If we don't focus on Hillary Clinton, we're going to win the battle and lose the war. I have no interest in winning the battle and losing the war. I want to be president of the United States, and we need to focus on Hillary Clinton and bringing the case against her, not worrying about some of the other folks on the stage.
Quentin Tarantino's getting a lot of attention. And what interests me as well is what the president has had to say about the Black Lives Matter issue and the law enforcement issue in this country that's been so controversial. And now you've got Comey, the FBI director, James Comey, coming out and saying, no, this is a real problem in police precincts around this country. And now the head of the DEA came out. He didn't need to say anything, but he did. And he stuck up for James Comey. What do you think about that?
Well, listen, here's the story, Martha. This president has allowed lawlessness to exist in this country. He allows sanctuary cities where mayors don't have to enforce the immigration law. He allows marijuana to be used recreationally in states like Oregon and Washington and Colorado. And now what he's doing is not backing up police officers. Today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in New Jersey. We signed an executive order making today a day where we're saying to law enforcement in our state, we appreciate you. We stand behind you. That's what I've done. And by the way, in New Jersey, by standing behind law enforcement, 20% reduction in crime since I'm governor and a 10% reduction in the prison population. We can do this for America, but you need a strong president who's going to stand behind law enforcement. The FBI director's right, and the president's wrong on this and not leading.
Thank you, Governor. Good to see you always.
Thanks, Martha.
Good to be here.